Hi, my name is Jason Bunn-Parsons, and I'm with my mentor, Sue Golubock, to do another series of video presentations. This one's on the core concepts for understanding autism, and this is the first part of a three-part series, introduction, our personal introductions, and point number one, and then we'll also be attaching a fourth video to this. The basic rights of autistic Aspies. And so, anyways, it's so as preparing for this, Sue, asked me, well, what are my qualifications? Why should anybody listen to me compared to all these other people on YouTube that are, exercising their First Amendment rights to express whatever opinions they have? Well, the big difference between me and them is Sue being my mentor means that I'm not just somebody who's angry about the system. I've been mentored by somebody who's been part of the system, who understands the system, and I myself have been part uh, of the system myself, and and understanding, not just I'm mad about what's going on with the system, but understand why the system is struggling in certain areas and what can be done about it. So before I elaborate any further on my qualifications, I want Sue to talk about her qualifications because they are much loftier than mine are. So, Sue.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Um, I had the privilege of working over 40 years in school systems. When the mandatory law came into effect, that's when I jumped into school systems. I didn't discover my own autism until I was in my early 50s, but my obsession had always been on understanding the brain, understanding how at first the typical brain worked differently than mine. And then when I finally realized I was autistic, how my brain works differently. So I have studied it. I've specialized in executive functioning, sensory processing. I have a master's degree in special education technology. So I would say most of my life has been devoted to um, uh, that population, the autistic population within the school setting.
Okay, thank you. And so, as far as other mentors that I've had, prior to Sue, as far as working with children, Lisa Rattan back in the early '90s, who taught me the, professional standards of working with children's, and a number of other mentors that have, helped develop me personally, including my 12-step sponsor, Ron, when I was working on issues of codependency, teaching me social skills, stress management, and conflict resolution, all these other things. So when it comes right down to it, a itemized list of everybody that I considered a mentor would be what would be about a dozen people. The newest one on that list would be Adam Lovelady, who is now the master teacher of the autism self-contained rooms at Emerson Elementary School in the Phoenix Elementary School District, Phoenix, Arizona, USA. So, anyways, and so 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 yes, I've had a lot of people speak into my life and and mold me, personally, professionally, and as an autistic, yeah, in order to help me, have a much better understanding than people who are just simply angry at the system and come up with ideas that absolutely would not work because all they understand is they're angry at the system. They don't understand, why the system is the way it is and what needs to be done in order to improve it. Um, so we're going to just touch on the first of the 9 points. Um, okay, now I need to remember how it is that what I need to do to make this scroll. Okay, here we go. Okay, so so here's the document right here. Core concepts for understanding autism and how to improve the quality of life of all autistic Aspies. Okay, and so written by me, critiqued by Sue. A number of edits were done, at her suggestion. Okay. And so, and point number one, really, if I have to convince you that, that these are valid, then you probably shouldn't be working with children. But every one of these points, in my opinion, um, are not being are not being met. For many of autistics. Okay, their most basic human rights being respected. Okay, and these rights are addressed in a separate document, and that's going to be the fourth video that I referred to. Okay, the need for needs to have a foundation of understanding of who they are, that provides a basis for self-confidence and self-esteem. When you Google what is autism, and you and and you look at these descriptions of what autism is, I have never found any place that provides you with that basis for for self-confidence, self-esteem. Is they just simply provide a itemized list of all of our struggles, um, the needs, the needs to be able to advocate for themselves in a manner that shows that they have respect for themselves if they're going to gain the respect of others. The majority of autistics that I have met absolutely will not self-disclose to an employer, even to save their job, because they assume that any such attempt is going to be disastrous. And it's like, well, then maybe we need to do a better job of explaining who we are, so that way autistics are willing to self-advocate. Understanding the of the neurology, so they can understand why they are the way they are, so they can achieve their highest quality of life possible for them. Sue and I have both worked professionally with autistics who are severely affected, and so yeah, the goals that we might have for a lot of the students that I worked with, particularly last year, are a lot more modest than I have for myself. But nevertheless, whatever the highest level that any can reach, we need to help them focus on that. Okay, um, needs um, to focus as much attention as possible on their talents and special interests in order to fully develop them towards skilled vocations. This is something that we're getting that they're doing more and more in the autism classrooms, at least over at Emerson. I can't speak for other schools. This is a major emphasis that Mr. Lovelady has been advocating even before I started working there. Needs to have whoever has been entrusted to their care, up entrusted to care for them, to be properly trained. This is something, again, we're working on improving at Emerson. Other jobs that I've had, they've made no attempt whatsoever to train entry-level employees that are treated like we're just all disposable. So why even bother training us? Needs proper leadership structure to ensure that everyone is following the training that has been given, instead of just doing whatever they feel like, especially when the immediate supervisor walks out the room. This idea that all entry-level employees should be viewed as equal, nobody having authority over each other, leads to anarchy. Okay, I don't care what kind of a spin job that people might want to put on, as far as that this fairy tale world that a bunch of individuals can work together without one person being in charge. That just doesn't always work. You get an alpha personality that wants to take charge, they're going to take charge, and if what they're wanting to do is contrary to what the immediate supervisor wants to do, well, once that immediate supervisor leaves the room, they're going to do that. So anyways, has the same basic needs, wants, and desires as any other human beings. Autistic athletes just have unique barriers in getting them met. Has struggles that are outward manifestations of core issues that are invisible to others, has certain behaviors that are the consequence of how they've been treated. However, this fact should never be used as a get out jail free card that allows them to never take responsibility for their own choices. So again, yeah, it shouldn't take a lot of explanation as far as why these are important. The question is, to what extent are these not being honored in the real world? And so, Sue, would you like to comment as far as your personal experiences and how these are or not being honored in professional or other environments?
I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
I chose the route as I was a kid.
Yeah.
This was before they had support services, before they recognized that individuals could be intelligent and highly verbal and still be autistic. So I went the route of basically trying to be like everyone else because that seemed to be the expectation. I felt I had no choice. All right. I had 40 years of dealing with post-traumatic stress. From doing that, I did not develop a sense of self. I was what other people told me to be. And that's the unfortunate part, is that we're still not helping our kids to understand the person that they are, because we focus so much on what they can't do, that we're not helping them develop what they can do, and develop a sense of pride in themselves, a sense of I can, and I want, I need. And that is basically because they always thought of the autistic mind as a black box that no one could understand. Well, research over the last 2 decades has done a lot to explain what's going on in the autistic brain. Unfortunately, the only reason they're doing the research is to try to find a cure for us, to fix us. But I've taken that information and said, okay, I can relate to it. I understand what they're saying because I experience it. And I have found the words to be able to explain to other people. This is hard for a non-autistic. It's impossible for a non-autistic because you don't experience what autistics experience. So you can't relate to what autistics are feeling and experiencing, which is why it really is the role of the adult autistic population that needs to be the one to speak out and help other autistics understand and develop a sense of an autistic self. And some of the barriers that Jason mentioned, I also feel, unfortunately, can become part of just society's. Society says the typical people are in the majority, and it's your responsibility to adapt to us because that's just the way it is. That puts up a tremendous barrier to autistic individuals. Um, uh, Instead of being able to have reasonable accommodations, or at best, at least lower those barriers so that we have a more equal playing field. Jason.
So my experience, like Sue, I didn't get diagnosed until I was 40. What used to be referred to as Asperger's syndrome was not an official diagnosis until the DSM-4, which came out in 1994, which was 6 years after I graduated from high school, and a few more years than that after Sue would have graduated. But anyways, it's so basically, I scored 140 IQ on my, 140 on my IQ test in 3rd grade, and then I graduated with a 1.9 GPA. Okay, so instead of getting the straight A's, that my IQ test said I should have gotten, I was getting C's and D's. Okay, and so the assumption was I was lazy, unmotivated, so on and so forth. And so yes, and I was also bullied by my peers, and I was actually blamed for the bullying because, after all, I'm so smart that if I didn't want to be bullied, I would simply stop doing what was causing my my peers to bully me. And the thing is, I thought I was emulating them, but apparently I wasn't. Okay, so then when I joined New Wine, which was the general purpose 12-step program that I told you about before, um, that the major emphasis that they had, you know, well, as far as helping me, overcome my codependency, which we defined as your when your identity and self-worth rests in other people. Okay, and so that's what happened is my identity was based on what my bullies told me, which was not good, and so starting to build up my self-confidence and self-esteem, focusing on the fact that I was having success in certain areas. At the time that I started there, I was just starting my cycle of vocational futility because I was going for jobs that didn't work for me, and that's a long story. And so that they were pointing out, well, look what you're doing as a volunteer, helping here and helping there. That matters too. And so that was one of the things, in my pre-diagnosis years, even though, yes, I struggled vocationally, for 20 years, prior to me getting my diagnoses. I was a volunteer. I helped refugees. I worked with children. I helped just about in every capacity, of a church, except for music, married, and women, other than watching kids during their when they're doing their special programs. But so, anyways, and so then when I did get my diagnoses, and excuse me. Okay, Sue, I need you to take it from here because I need to get something to drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to point out that I had the privilege of being married for over 50 years to a non-autistic individual. My decision to get married had nothing to do with emotions or anything. It was merely a logical decision. But I did learn the most important lesson is that if I wanted him to understand and respect who I am, I have to be able to understand and respect who he is. And that's the basis of what I call meeting each other's needs. Autistics do need to learn. We don't get a get out of jail card because we have um, barriers and struggles that we're dealing with. We still have responsibilities, and we need to learn to respect others if we're going to ask them to respect us.
Okay, thank you. So it's so like I said, okay, so I joined the autism support groups. I got my diagnoses in 2009 at the age of 40, and so I started reading up on them and joining Sue's support group, and so and basically what the information that was being presented to me was a blatant violation of what I was taught in um, in codependent recovery, as far as okay, well, we need to focus on making everybody happy. We need to focus on changing ourselves so that way we fit in with everybody. And it's like, excuse me, but no, I was told that that's called codependency. Okay, and so so I absolutely rejected that concept from the very beginning, because yes, even though the 12 steps didn't help me in my vocational struggles, because for various reasons, which I won't go into, it did help me out in all other areas, including developing social skills, and developing conflict resolution. And so then I'm hearing a lot of my fellow members at Sue's group saying, we can't socialize, we can't do this, we can't do that. Like, excuse me, but I learned how to do all that, and how did I learn to do that? Well, the group that I went to was a place where they granted unconditional acceptance to every member. Okay, and everybody in that group acknowledged that they themselves struggled, a lot of them struggle with various addictions, and others struggle with codependency. But everybody in that group realized that they struggled, and they were in no position to impose their way of life on anybody else, because they weren't a fine example themselves in certain areas. And so, but by going to a safe environment like that, where I could be honest about my struggles without being ridiculed, and could get input from people who genuinely cared about me and wanted to help me to improve, because they did see all these positives in me. And so um it's that's how I built my self-esteem, even before I learned about my autism. And as far as me being able to to be able to advocate for myself, well, a lot of that does have to do with evangelism training that a lot of autistics, that a lot of Christian churches teach. And basically, understanding how to present yourself in a way, that's positive, called friendship evangelism. Okay. And so basically, we're working as an autistic advocate at Emerson Elementary. That's basically, the approach I took, that I was a friendship evangelist on behalf of the autistic community. And so that these same basic concepts of how to present myself, to my coworkers and to the parents. Yeah, that's basically, my game plan, and the secret to the success I have had. Yes, there have been some bad apples, but you're not going to win over everybody. But most people, if you, present yourself in a positive way, you'll at least get a positive response, even if they're not necessarily, going to, to be a cheerleader or anything. Yeah, at least securing their cooperation, so that way, you can, work with them to achieve common goals. That's good enough. Even if they're not your best buddy, if you can at least get them to cooperate with you on common goals, that's good enough. And that is, what I've been able to do. So, Sue, anything you want to add on?
Yeah, I'd like to point out another very um, important moment in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I had always observed that people often hurt the very people they love,
Mm-hmm.
which made it very confusing for me. Why would I want to be loved? My husband certainly said he loved me, but when he proved it to me was because he kept interrupting me when I was on my computer, and to have to pull myself out of what I was visually doing to shift to think what he was saying, only to find out that it was nothing new. He's talked about that before. So I said, okay, you seem to need my attention. Let's sit down and talk. Oh, no. I'm just being social. And social is spontaneous. Well, of course, I said, well, I don't do spontaneous social
Mm-hmm.
very well. I don't understand it. Um, and I explained to him how painful it was, literally painful, for me to shift from visual focus to auditory. And so, you know what he did? Instead of ever interrupting me again verbally, he would come and stand in my peripheral vision. He adapted his
Mm-hmm.
behavior to accommodate my need to not cause me pain. That I finally understood what love meant. And that's what we're asking people to understand. They have to understand the autistic brain, the way it works, so that they can make reasonable accommodations for the people, autistic people in their lives that they love and care about.
uh, I did something very similar with a first grade student, in the 21-22 school year. She was a first grader, and she liked to do art. And so, okay, well, it's time to transition now to do something else. And if you just abruptly try to transition her without warning, there would oftentimes be problems. And so, we had these little cue cards, and that would say what the next thing would be transitioning to. Okay, and so I would just go, take a cue card, like 5 minutes before it's time to transition, and I would just place it on the upper left hand corner of her desk, so in her peripheral, but not interfering, with what she was doing, and just letting you know, okay, 5 minutes that we go to playground, 5 minutes that we go to whatever, okay, and never had a problem with her. Well, whenever I would do that. Now, a couple of my other coworkers didn't get it, and so they wouldn't, always do that, and so there would sometimes still be problems with them. But with me, nope, it was never a problem. Just put the cue card in the upper left-hand corner, just within her peripheral view, but not obstructing what she was doing. Let her know 5 minutes, and no problem. And so anyways, so yeah, that really does work, and anyways, again, that this is the first of a 3-part series plus the extra one, and so I'm going to be attaching these to a change.org petition, in order that people can let's the people that make these decisions, like educators and politicians who make decisions that affect education, know that these that these concepts, that the public supports these concepts, as well as the news media, let them know, hey, you should come and talk about these concepts, because the public generally does support these. And so so I'm in the process of getting that set up right now. It's change.org. And so just if you, when you do your search, the easiest way is to do Jason Bunn-Parsons, and you can find most anything that I do online, because that's my unique search tag that I use. So whether you're searching YouTube or anything else, you type in Jason Bunn-Parsons and you'll find whatever it is that I do. So anyway, so I hope that that the people who are watching this are interested in really supporting us, so that way these concepts that we're going to be talking about actually are going to be embraced. Because if these concepts that we're going to be discussing are that, then it'll revolutionize that how autistics are supported, not just by the educational system, but by the entire system as well. So anyways, so Sue, any last comments you want to make before we end it?
No, I totally support what Jason is doing. And the power comes from parents, educator.
Mm-hmm.
You have the power to influence the administrators and politicians who make the rules, and provide the training.
Mm-hmm.
You have the power through your vote.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the power through your voice. And we'd both like to encourage you to exercise that right on behalf of the autistic individual in your life.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will close out this video, and the next video that we're going to be doing is going to be on Wednesdays. So it'll be a few days before we're able to do part 2, but part 2 is coming. So until then, have a nice day.